Hello, buddy. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the 9.12 patch notes. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out with a lot with visibility on the channel. If you want to help support the channel, YouTube also added a join button there, so it's like a Twitch sub, just $5 a month. You can come play with us every Sunday if you want to support as well. Get access to members portion of the Discord, and get a $5 discount on any coaching or guides that you like. Speaking of which, if you'd like coaching or guides, just check out the main channel. I have playlists. Tons of content for both of those coaching sessions. There's $25. I can do them either on stream or off stream. I'll add them to the playlist so everyone else can always access those. You can always access them as well to learn a little bit about that. And then if you want to sponsor a topical guide, I can do anything from best one tricks to specific champion guides to topical guides. Whatever you'd like to see, just let me know. And if you want to watch that content, it's in those playlists as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So one thing that they did decide to do, I guess they did this about 12 days ago, but this kind of slipped under my radar, so I read this over, and I'll just really quickly go over this. But they've tried to make it much more clear what they're actually doing, what their different guidelines are for balancing champions. So they put this in a dev diary. The link is right there in the patch notes if you want to check that out. But I'll just hit the highlights here. They're basically saying that, they want to be as transparent as possible. They know people are going to be frustrated sometimes with balancing changes, but they want you to know the criteria that they're going to be using moving forward for most of the changes. Now, there might be some exceptions outside of the rule for whatever reason, but this is kind of where they're going for. So they're breaking down play into 4 different categories. Average play, which is gold and lower. Skilled play, which I believe is like probably low diamond through platinum. And then elite play, which they're calling the 0.1%, which I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it's probably like masters and challenger level play. And then they have professional play after that. And they have different criteria to decide if a champion is too strong or too weak. Okay, so if something is too strong at average level play, then they're saying if it has the standard average ban rate, which is 7%, is what they're calling it. So if it has less than the standard average ban rate, but has more than a 54.5% win rate, then it's probably too strong. Or if it has 52.5% win rate and 5 times average ban rate, so 35% ban rate, then it's going to be too strong. And at the bottom end, then if it's less than a 49% win rate. So they're focusing mostly on win rates for average play and skilled play. And then elite play, they switch over and they look mostly at ban rates and they look at presence. So that is how often a champion is both picked and banned. And the reasoning for this, they kind of give it a bunch of PR spin, but basically it's that they think that if you're below masters, then most people don't know what they're doing in terms of picking and banning anyway, so they don't pay attention to that. They think that people just kind of pick whatever and just ban stuff they don't like playing against without a really good concept of what is actually strong. And they think that most of it just comes down to decision making and just other things other than individual champion balance at those brackets. So I don't know. I think that's a little disingenuous, but at the same time, that's what they're going with. I think it makes a little bit of sense. But there will be some champions that will be very frustrating, that will seem really overpowered, potentially in lower level play, that are not going to get banned. So one of the most notable ones, actually, if we look here, we can see this, would be Yasuo. So that's someone who gets banned 47% of the time. This is even at platinum level play, 47% of the time, but he only has a 49% ban rate, or win rate rather. So they're not going to ban him. So if this was applied to challenger, then they would nerf him. If he had that kind of ban rate in challenger, because remember at challenger and masters, they're going to be looking at it from primarily a ban rate perspective, right? So they're looking at ban rate rather, because they're assuming that people in Masters and Challenger, that they actually know what's really good, and so they're banning stuff that's actually too strong. And they think that win rate is not a good indicator because there's such a small sample size, because so few people play at that bracket, that they think they just don't get enough data on what's actually good as far as winning. So they think that the stuff that's actually good will be banned almost as much or more than it will actually be played most of the time. And so that's why they switched that up. So if Yasuo had that kind of win rate, what does he even have at Challenger? Let me see. It has Masters Plus on here. Yeah, it doesn't have it. Yeah, it's only 11% ban rate in Challenger. So this is not. So Yasuo is not going to get touched because he has a high ban rate in Platinum. But he doesn't have a high ban rate in Challenger. However, Yuumi is banned a lot in Challenger. And so there's a good chance that Yuumi is going to get nerfed. And so she is getting nerfed on this patch as well. So Yuumi, Aatrox would be the only two that are above that threshold. Nautilus probably as well. So 5 times the average, I think it was what it was saying, which would be 35%. So elite play. Yeah, okay, so 45% ban rate. So they don't have 5 times the number. But, yeah, so that would only be Aatrox and Yuumi right now that would get nerfed based on ban rate. And then it's stuff that has less than 5% presence could potentially get buffed. It's not saying that all of these champions get buffed all the time, but, you know, something like Varus has less than 5% presence, Sion, Swain, Victor, all of these things. So that's interesting. So they're saying that, and this is kind of a double-edged sword here as well. Something is overpowered if it is above the top-end threshold for any bracket. So this means that if in pro play something has more than 90% presence, then it's too strong. Or if down here, like, you know, in silver level play, something has more than a 54.5% win rate or a 52.5% win rate with 5 times the ban rate, then it's too strong. If it's too strong in any of these brackets, then it can potentially get nerfed. However, for something to be underpowered, it has to be below the bottom end in every single bracket, which is a really high threshold. So that means that less than 5% presence in pro and less than a 49% win rate in solo queue, which there are some champions out there that are like that. But even some things that I think probably should get, you know, buffed to like a little bit of an extent, maybe like Heimerdinger or something like that is a cool champion, but he's not going to get buffed because his win rate is still like decent. It's like 51% or something. So that's the thing, is like in lower brackets, and they're basing it on win rate, and they don't care about pick rate in lower brackets. And they explain this a little bit in there. But there's some champions that just do not get played well. So Tarek's not going to get buffed ever because he has a high win rate in mid lane. Even though he only has a 0.3 like pick rate, they don't care about the pick rate because they assume people don't know what they're doing. I don't know. It's kind of some weird assumptions. Like Wukong's not going to get any kind of buffs. Kled's not going to get buffs because of this. Who are some other kind of like misfits? Like Irelia and Soul's not going to get buffs. Mordekaiser's just getting re-released, but like Quinn's not going to get buffs. Dinger's not getting buffs, according to these metrics. Diana not getting buffs. It has to be something below a 49% win rate. And there are a lot of champions that I think are questionable. They just don't get played a lot. That have like okay play rates. So, yeah. So they just outline that. So you can look at it. I just wanted to kind of go over that just a little bit at the very beginning of the video, just because they are trying to outline why they're doing what they're doing. And it doesn't say that necessarily like 100% that's going to happen. But kind of the big takeaway is that it's much, much easier for something to get nerfed or hit this like threshold for nerf because it only has to happen in one bracket, versus for something to actually get buffed, it has to be underpowered in all brackets. So this is what they're working with going forward. And now this does not apply to items. I think they answered that somewhere in here. Rework champions, frustrating champions, regional differences. And then item summoner spells and like different kind of meta considerations. They say they don't really, you know, have metrics for that. They're just going to have to look at that on a case-by-case basis. So I thought that was interesting. I know a lot of people have always wanted them to kind of take a more statistical approach to it. Well, that's what they're doing now. So we'll see if they hold true to that. If they do hold true to it, you know, there should be a couple of things coming down the line. Morgana should probably get nerfed in a patch or two because according to their metrics here, if we look at ban rate, she has over a 49% win rate, and she has a 45% ban rate in Platinum, and that reaches those thresholds. If we look at the ban rate champions, remember it has to be like 35% ban rate and over a 50, I think it was a 52.5% win rate if it's Platinum and lower for something to get banned. And so she's the only one that meets that out of the banned champions. Aatrox, Yasuo, and Zed don't meet those thresholds. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they actually follow through with that, because if they're doing that, I'm not sure that Morg necessarily needs to get nerfed, but if they're using that exact statistical metric, then she should be nerfed. She's not nerfed on this patch, but she should be nerfed on next patch, just given those stats, if they're like actually being literal about those numbers that they just gave there. So we'll see if they do it or not. Once again, I'm not saying that she should be nerfed. I'm just trying to use her as a test subject for someone that I don't think is really in need of a nerf, but given their criteria, should probably be nerfed. Or, like, should be, given their statistical data. So we'll see if they follow through on that. Okay. Changes on this patch, though. Ryze. Now, some of these are really complicated changes. Ryze, I think he's gone. I mean, he's already trash in solo queue. Like, this is going to be for pro play a little bit. It's a champion. It's like 44% win rate or something in solo queue. And they are taking away his shield off of his Q. And that right there is enough, I think. Like, they're nerfing him a million other ways as well. But just, like, taking away a shield off a champion, look at Ornn. If you remember what happened to Ornn, they gave him all kinds of changes, but they took away the shield on his W. Gone. Instantly gone. Out of pro play, even out of solo queue. Ornn never had a great win rate in solo queue, I don't think. I don't think he was ever over 50%. But he was pretty good in pro. But, like, if they take away that shield, it's done. Akali was nerfed. Like, they took away her lifesteal, and then I think they rebuffed her a couple of patches after they took away her lifesteal. But when they took away her lifesteal, she fell quite a bit. But yeah, taking away this shield is bad enough. Then they also took away the instant root. So you can turn it into a root, but it requires a lot more setup. So you can't just flash root for your jungler anymore. So I don't know that he's going to be picked in pro play anymore. He's already bad in solo queue. They increased the cooldown on his R now to 210 seconds at level 6 also, which is a massive nerf. Now, they did give it a lot more range. They gave it 3,000 range on first cast, which is pretty good. But just a lot of this stuff, especially, like I said, the shield and the instant root seems bad. It looks like there's not as much damage to minions as well, so it looks like his wave clear is a bit weaker, if I'm reading some of this correctly. Once again, like, trying to figure out Ryze is like trying to read a novel. He's like his own little universe of like a million different interactions, and I'm not a Ryze player, so I don't know for sure, but, you know, I think that the gist is he's already really bad in solo queue. I think this is going to make him worse, and I think this is probably going to kick him out of pro play. They explain a lot of it right here, but... anyways, yeah, he's bad. Don't play him. Okay, Sylas. Now, Sylas is another one that's not that great in solo queue. It always feels like he's really strong when he is good, but realistically, he's just not in solo queue. I mean, even if we look at sort of platinum here, yeah, you got Ryze at like 44%. Sylas is down here a little bit higher. He's at 49.5%. He's banned a lot. He is very, very good in pro, though, so he probably needs to be nerfed for pro. But they are pretty much changing a lot of his wave clear, and like knocking out wave clear is another way to really knock a champion out of pro. Like, the best ways to knock champions out of pro are take away some of their defensive steroids, particularly if they're a squishy champion, take away their wave clear, and take away their macro. So any sort of like movement that they have, or like teleports, or just something to get around the map, you nerf that, and usually that will hurt a champion a lot. So basically like a Galio treatment, Tom Kench treatment. I guess they nerfed Tom Kench as like W primarily, is how they hurt him in pro a lot. He is still seen in pro some, but anyways. So they have nerfed Sylas a lot over time. They've nerfed and then buffed, and then nerfed and then buffed. Now they're nerfing again. So it deals 70% less damage to minions. That is massive right there. So it's going to give him a lot less wave clear. Now, I'm not sure. Once again, I'm not a Sylas player. He is a really complicated mid laner to play correctly. But this looks like 70% less damage to minions is a big deal. Now, it's not a ton of damage in the early game, I guess, but that certainly should put a dent in his early wave clear. So it should be much easier to push him in and get priority now. And then they are nerfing the chains as well, which I believe is what you max on Sylas this day and age. So that's a lot of damage off chains. He's losing 0.2 AP ratio, which, you know, when he has 100 AP early on after his first item or so, that's 20 damage right there. And then when you max it out, it's another 25 damage. So losing a ton of damage there. And then the radius, I'm not exactly sure on that, but once they start nerfing radiuses, that's really bad as well. A lot of times, like, sometimes the lightest nerfs are just straight nerfs to numbers, but it's like those things when they start nerfing, like, cooldowns on your big ultimates, or like your radius, this flat out removing healing or shielding, like, those are the kind of the red flags. This champion's in trouble. So nerfing that radius a little bit doesn't seem like much. That's a 10% nerf on the radius, though. So that'll depend on how, like, if that means that you can't, like, hit every minion in a wave as it's coming in and as it spreads out a little bit, that's going to be really rough. If you're going to be able to hit all the minions anyways, maybe it doesn't matter as much, but that seems like that could matter. And then Kingslayer, they are giving this a little bit of extra damage and extra ability power ratio. Now, I'm not sure the level up. I know there have been times when people have leveled Kingslayer first, and they nerfed it, and they've started maxing Q first. So I don't know if you max Kingslayer or Abscond first or second. I think it's Kingslayer second, but once again, I'm not 100% on that. Now, this, once again, just like what they're doing with Ryze, they aren't completely removing the shield, but they're making it a lot more conditional. So not quite as bad as Ryze, but you no longer shield yourself just for using Abscond. You have to actually hit someone with this. So before, you could just cast this, jump a little bit, and get the shield, regardless of whether or not you hit somebody. But now you have to actually hit the person with the hook in order to get the shield. So this is especially when you're trying to run away from stuff and just get a little bit of shield to survive. That's not happening anymore. So I think it's a pretty big nerf to him. The shield, I think, is the same. I don't know what the previous shield was, but I think it's pretty much the same thing. But yeah, so I don't know if this is going to be enough to completely take him out. He has an extremely high presence right now. It's like 90% pick ban in pro. If you look at games of league, picks of the week, he was floating around at, like, let's see, patch 9.11 here. He was floating around at somewhere like a 76% win rate or something. If you look at champions, yeah, here we go. Yeah, so he has 96% presence and a 60% win rate. So that, you know, he might still get picked. He might, if he still has okay wave clear, and if you're using that engage most of the time with the E to, like, hit people to get that shield, then maybe it doesn't matter as much. I mean, obviously it's going to matter, but with that much presence and that high of a win rate, like, he still might be able to squeak in at like 50-55% win rate even after these nerfs. The Q is that's pretty significant, but I think he'll probably still be around a little bit, although he'll be kind of nerfed back to like the 50-55% win rate in pro, I think, off of this. But once again, you know, those are just kind of round numbers. I'm not an expert, but it sounds significant, but not completely backbreaking for him. Whereas something like Yuumi and Aatrox have really high presence, but they have a pretty low win rate as well. And that's how a lot of the high presence champs are. Sejuani is someone who is up there. So I think like Sejuani and Sylas are kind of the biggest offenders in terms of like huge presence. And then like Jarvan, Rakan is like sneaking up a little bit too. Akali is still very high win rate. But yeah, probably good nerf overall. Still, I wouldn't play him in solo queue most of the time. I mean, if you're really good on him, I guess you could make him work, but really, really low win rate. Okay, Yuumi. So Yuumi is an interesting one. I can tell you, I think she's OP, honestly. I've been playing, and I don't know what her win rate is. It has been climbing up some, but like as you get pretty good on Yuumi, you'll start to figure out that she is really, really good. If you're good on her, she's actually really hard to play, so she's only at like a 47% win rate, which is kind of like an interesting meme sort of thing, because everyone, like, when she was released, it's like, oh, it's this e-girl champ that just like AFKs on somebody and just like, you know, gets carried to victory, when that's really not how she is. Like, you do sit on people and you do have a high like rate of hitting people with your Q, but like the real skill on Yuumi is learning when to hop off of people and auto attack to get that shield in the middle of a fight without dying and without getting CC'd. So that can be really tricky. And then just kind of figuring out when you should try to go save somebody or not. Because if you try to go save somebody and it doesn't work out, you're 100% dying. And so that's kind of rough. But just watch my support tier list. I talk about her a little bit more. I think she's definitely going to be tier 1 on this patch, but they are changing a lot about her. So they are giving her more health, which is both a buff and a nerf. Because one of the most popular builds on her was going for a presence of mind and cut down build out of the I'm blanking out on the tree, but like the precision tree, there we go, secondary. So you would go Airy first, you know, kind of your standard Airy, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Scorch, but then people would go into precision to get presence of mind and cut down. And the reason you would get cut down is because she has such low base health, and it would actually give you a ton of extra damage. So it's kind of a really troll build. So actually giving her the health is going to lower her damage output early on, and she's pretty safe sitting on somebody most of the time, except when you jump off to hit your bop and block. So it actually will be a nerf to her during the laning phase, I think, in a lot of matchups. So ironically enough, giving her this health is actually a nerf. It doesn't say that here, but that's why they're doing it. And then bop and block, the mana refund, getting 30 every 20 seconds is still really good. That's 60 mana. You know, even if you only proc it twice in a minute, which you're probably going to get a bit more than that out of it if you're paying attention. But yeah, even if you proc it twice per minute, that's still 60 mana per minute, which is a hell of a lot. That's like 12 mana per 5 to start with. That's like double the mana regen of most other champions early on. So you're still getting like a couple of extra fairy charms worth of value out of that. So yeah, it's not 80 mana per 60, but 60 per 60 is still pretty good early on. And the shield is basically the same early. Yeah, later on, it's not as big. You are losing 60 shield at rank 18. So that means like halfway through, you're probably losing like 30 shield. So it definitely is meaningful, but you can only do this once, you know, late game every like 14 seconds or so. So like once a fight. So it still is going to be good early game, but it is going to nerf her a little bit late game, which is fair. She's very strong. Bug where the missile would not spawn toward... Okay, that didn't happen very often, I don't think. Enemies gain an assist when you kill her. Okay, basically, so you can't like suicide at towers anymore during tower dives. You can't grab aggro and take like 3 shots, which was rare to begin with, but now you can't do that. They're nerfing like her W, like the adaptive force. This really doesn't matter. Like Yuumis don't level this up for most games, and you have 6 points you can put in your Q anyways. So you're not going to be leveling up your W until you're level like 14 or something anyways. So most games are over by then. And that's because your Q is so strong that, and they're keeping all of the Q buffs in there that they gave her halfway through the patch. So it's a ton of damage, really nice slow, very accurate, charges up your Athenes. It's very, very strong. So you need to max your Q first and then max your heals second, your E. Is very strong, especially once you start getting plus healing and shielding. So this really doesn't matter. Like, this is for, like, the meme builds, you know, like the all caps. Oh, my God, Veigar has 3,000 AP, you know, YouTube videos. They're nerfing that a little bit here. But for most, like, standard games of League of Legends that are not troll games, it's really not going to matter that much. Now, this one is a pretty big deal. The fact that the dash can be interrupted by any immobilizing CC. So, like, kind of top in Yuumis, and I did this sometimes on purpose, sometimes accidentally, but you could soak a piece of CC in mid and, like, start your W right when you're about to get hit, and it would not stop you from connecting. So, like, I remember in one game, I was, like, shifting over to somebody else while an Ashe arrow was, like, flying in, and I ate the arrow mid-air, and it stunned me, but I got to complete my shift. So I like body blocked this Ashe arrow for somebody, and it would have killed him. And they got to run away. And there's like, she was very good into Leona, because if Leona ever hit her E on you and you were off like on your own, then she would still get to dash onto the person. So there were several kind of troll things like that where you could intercept CC. And if you were really good on her, you know, you could do this pretty regularly. Like you could intercept like, you know, a Morgana Q, any kind of stun that's flying in, like a Sejuani ult. You could intercept this stuff as long as you were in transit with your W and body block it for people, which I thought was pretty cool. That's like very high skill expression, Yuumi play, but they're getting rid of that. I guess maybe it was too abusive. but now it's any immobilizing effect. It used to be only knockups and knockbacks, so it had to be like a Thresh, Flay, or I've been knocked out by like a Nautilus, or not Nautilus. The Nautilus knockup would do it, but like an Aatrox like slamming his blade down and knocking me out of it. So, anyways, all CC now interrupts it. So you can't do that anymore. Once again, virtually no Yuumis were abusing that at like low diamond and lower, so that's primarily just for pro play. But that is, you can do that on accident sometimes. So what this means is it's going to be a lot more dangerous to dash around in team fights, because if you get hit by just some random like root or something, like if you're trying to fly between zones and like Amumu does his ult and hits you between that, then you're going to get rooted now. So be careful with that. So that's a that's a pretty big nerf right there. But this is a really nice quality of life buff, and this was so frustrating when I would like try to attach to somebody else. Like I would press W on Z or something, and like right when I do that, they shift out of the way, like right before I'm about to press it, and then I press it to try to go to Z, and I just jump off, and then I'm really confused because I'm like, what the hell? Why didn't I go to Z? And it's because they dashed or flashed or something right before I jumped in, and then I'm no longer attached, and then I just die. And so that was like super frustrating. So now if you try to click on somebody and they move out of range, then you're still going to stay on your current target. I believe that's what it looks like. So that's pretty nice. And then they're adding in some extra quality of life. This one is huge. You can now get a little ring around the person that Yuumi can see. So I haven't seen this visually, but this is great because in team fights, it can be really like annoying and frustrating to try to figure out where the hell you are when everyone's like, there's all the spells going off and you're trying to figure out who you're supposed to jump to, and they're all moving out of your radius over and over again, and there's like a half a second like time between your jumps. You try to jump to somebody, heal them, and you try to jump to somebody else, and it's only been 0.4 seconds instead of 0.5. Then you stay on the current person, but you think you may have gone to the other person. It can just get really disorienting. And then she's just like sitting there like behind somebody, but you don't know if you're actually attached or if you accidentally detached because they moved out of range. And so like in really busy team fights where people are jumping around all over the place, it can be very disorienting to try to figure out like who you're attached to or if you're even attached to anybody. So like you can kind of follow it, but it gets tough because it just looks like she's either normally sitting there when she's attached to somebody or not. Like she doesn't get like a special visual. So now it's nice that you do get this visual to kind of help you clearly see, okay, the attachment to that other person did not go through, or okay, like I tried to attach, but it didn't work because there was still 0.1 seconds before I could attach to somebody else. So I think that's a pretty good quality of life there. And now it gives you kind of a stealth look so that you know if you're stealth or not. By the way, if you attach to somebody who's stealth, you are stealth too, as Yuumi, if it's like Twitch or Eve or Rengar or something like that. So pretty good combo. All right, Aatrox. Nerfing the cooldown, and his World Ender is now self-healing. So this is a big deal on World Ender. So now like champions like Soraka and Sona and Yuumi and these types of champs don't just like mega heal him all the time, which is good. I think that he already has enough healing with like Death's Dance and just the natural healing that he has on his R. So I think that's a good change. And then Deathbringer, you can trade a lot less likely in the early levels with this, so that's pretty good. That's going to make him more vulnerable in the laning phase. He's already very dominant in lane, so I think that's pretty good. He doesn't have an insane win rate overall, I don't think, but that's primarily for pro, where I think he's pretty good. I mean, 51.5 is still pretty respectable for looking at win rates. I don't remember where he went to, but I think I saw 51.4. Go under ban rate here. Yeah, so like 50% ban rate and a 51.4% win rate. Still pretty strong. So he probably needed a little nerf there. Okay. Ashe's volley, it's not going to be enough. Like Ashe's problem is, her kit is really strong in like organized play. Like if you're actually tracking the jungler and the camps and your jungler is using that information, you're using that information to sort of track pathing and make intelligent decisions based off of that. If you're not doing something useful with Hawkshot, if you're just randomly like firing it just to see if you're about to get ganked or not, it's not going to be strong enough, I don't think, with Ashe. And the thing is, like, you're sacrificing so much damage in this meta right now in order to have that. And so many people still go Blade of the Ruined King on her, and it's so weak as a single item power spike on Ashe. She already has a slow, like, permanently pretty much up. And so, like, the Blade of the Ruined King active really doesn't do as much for her as it does for other champions. Um, it's just really low damage on that. She doesn't have like, resets or like super fast attack speed or anything to go with it or any. She's just like, her damage is really low. Her ult is good, if you land it constantly. She does have good poke with W, but she's kind of got Caitlyn-itis in a sense too, where it's like she has really long attack range, but you have to actually use it in the laning phase. You have to actually auto-attack the enemy and use your W to poke people out and make intelligent trades. Otherwise, you're just going to get outscaled most of the time. So she's okay. I mean, she still has a good win rate. I just think there are other champions that are probably better than her most of the time. So you can definitely win with her, but she has a bullseye on her head because she has no escape. So if she gets ganked by like a Hecarim or a Zed or a Talon or just anything with a lot of mobility, Jarvan, and she doesn't have flash, she's just going to get dunked. And, if I want to play something like that, I'd rather just play Jinx. Because Jinx just has much better scaling overall. Still has pretty good utility. I mean, Ashe is at like 51.7 win rate, but there are just so many better champions right now. Sivir, Jinx, Twitch, even like Draven and Misfortune. All of those I think are just going to be a lot more consistent than Ashe, but she's okay. It's, they're giving her a light buff. It's fine. Caitlyn, what a joke. Like, why? 2 AD? That's not even the 3 AD meme. It's literally 2 AD. Come on, man. Like, what they need to do with Caitlyn, I mean, I guess her unique niche is dominating the laning phase, but they should just take some of the power out of the lane and put it somewhere else in her kit. Like, I don't know, make her headshot early on do more damage, but lower her attack range to like 625 or something. I don't know. It's just like Caitlyn is really hard to balance because, like they said, she takes over metas, so that is kind of her thing, is sieging, and she does have a unique sort of skill set for that. I mean, I guess she's fine. She is seeing some pro play. It's just like, she's really high skill cap, and it's deceptively so. Most people think she's very easy to play, but she's not. You have to actually, land those auto attacks, zone people out, be aggressive, take tower plates, understand tempo. So I guess that's fine. I mean, they're right. You don't want to buff her too much. She was played like some recently. I don't know if it's going to... Not a lot. I mean, she's 2-1. Yeah, not played a lot, so I don't know. It's difficult to figure out like how you could buff her without putting her over the top. Maybe lower the cooldown on her net or something just to give her a bit more of an escape. They tried buffing her ult a few times. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not that sad that she's not really played that much. I hate to go against her when she's really good in a meta. And, I hate to play with her as well. I don't like playing with champions where it's like if the enemy has it and they're really skilled, then they just completely dumpster you. But if your team gets it and they're not really good, then they just get completely rolled over, like Ezreal, basically. It's just like, it's such a feels bad champs. It's just like, it feels like they always have the good player and, like, you always have the bad player on your team. I know statistically that doesn't make sense, but I don't know. Those types of champions just feels bad, and Caitlyn's definitely one of those that has the potential to be very oppressive or very worthless. Okay, Irelia, still too good in pro. I mean, she doesn't have a high win rate in solo queue, but I still think she's too good in solo queue. She's just really oppressive, if anyone has a pulse. But Flawless Duet, I don't know if it's definitely like either the second or the third thing that you max. So having 4 extra seconds on it, I believe is probably the last thing that you max. I think you might max your W second, but I don't know for sure. I don't play Irelia. So they're lowering the range on it, which probably doesn't matter that much. A little bit. I mean, 850 range on something like that is pretty ridiculous. But the extra 4 seconds on something that you're not going to have leveled up for quite a while, I don't believe, is quite a lot. So if you don't hit your stun, they're going to have much more time to punish you. So that's all right. Nice, light nerf. It's probably not going to matter for solo queue that much, but will matter for pro. So that's a good job. Okay, Karma. So this might be one that's actually like the most interesting, especially for supports in solo queue. I'm not sure if it's enough, but this is pretty dang good. 2.5 seconds of a non-decay, like very fast movement speed is pretty nice, especially with something like Hecarim. Like Karma's problem, and I get asked about Karma a lot, is just her numbers suck. Like she's been nerfed a lot from like season 5, and 6. She was pretty good. And then she got nerfed a lot in Season 6. I'm just kind of flipping through her history here. And then she just, like, in Season 7, she got tapped a little bit. Like, her shield strength used to be 240. Now it's 170. It's down, like, a third. You know, it's ridiculous. And this was really the nail in the coffin, is she used to give, like, the big shield that she gave to one person with her Mantra'd Inspire, which turned into Defiance, used to give 50% of the total shield to your allies. Now they dropped it down to 30%, which is huge. So if you're giving out a 400 shield, instead of doing a 200 shield off of that, you're only giving people like, you know, 130 shield. So it was a really, really big deal for team fights. Basically, that used to be her ultimate in fights, right? You would do an Mantra Defiance, give out a huge shield to everyone, Ardent Sensor, you know, drop a Redemption. It was very good. It was almost like a little mini Taric ult, where it was like your team was just unkillable for a couple of seconds there because they had this like massive shield and a Redemption dropping on top of them. But the nerf to the base shield, in addition to this right here, was just a nail in a coffin. And she'd already been nerfed so much. Like I said, from 240 all the way down to 170. It's just pretty gross. But she was pretty oppressive. That was when Caitlyn was really strong in the lane too. And they've given her a couple of buffs over time. But, you know, her numbers are still like... She's good in the laning phase, but she just doesn't scale as well as a lot of other enchanters. Because, first of all, she doesn't have a real ultimate. You know, a lot of other champs, you got like Sona, AoE stun, like Yuumi, AoE stun, Janna, like fight reset, you know, Lulu, like this big burst that protects people, Nami, this big wave that has a lot of CC and a lot of range on it. You know, Karma's like, okay, I empower one of my abilities. It's like your empowered Q later on in the game is not going to matter. Because, like, yes, like in the laning phase, this is strong because you can use it a lot and you can use it like starting level 1. Right, so if you're actively like hitting people with Qs, landing auto attacks, lowering the cooldown on this, because every auto attack and spell does lower the cooldown on her ult by a decent little chunk. You've got some CDR, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, this can be okay. You know, you can get the cooldown to like, I don't know, 30 seconds, 20 seconds. So you can do something mantra like every minion wave, basically. And that's powerful. That's a low cooldown. That's strong, right? And usually you'll empower your Q early on. It does a hell of a lot of poke damage. You know, total damage at level 1 or whatever is much higher. Like, she'll chunk you. You know, she'll do like a third to half of your health if she hits you with an empowered Q early. And this does do AoE. So she can push waves really effectively. So she's great with like a Sivir or a Caitlyn or whatever, because you can just Q that back line and then they do a spell to it, and it's just like, boom, insta push. So she's great with, like, a push and poke is what they used to call it. She used to be played with Caitlyn, with Ezreal all the time. And she's the type of enchanter that could actually, if her numbers were stronger, she would be really oppressive in pro play. There was one meta where it was just like Karma versus Zyra for, like, almost the whole season. They both did very similar stuff. They had really good poke, really good wave clear, really good tower pressure with things like Caitlyn and Ezreal. But... this is still pretty good. This is still pretty good. I mean, it's like 70 mana. You get some poke. It does have a slow on it. Now, they did increase the slow on this patch to 35%. So that does give you a lot more kiting power. That does last for a second and a half. So, you know, that is nice. That is going to allow you to kite a little bit better. It's going to allow you to chase people down a little bit better, stick them with your W. So that is definitely significant, especially at level 1. And Inspire, they are lowering the mana cost at later levels, so it's only 70. You can spam it a lot. That's nice. But this big thing, this 2.5 seconds move speed, is very good. That's like you have a little mini Shirelias, if you can put that on your whole team now to run in. That is pretty handy. She does scale, you know, really well with things like Athene's, with Ardent Sensor. She can put Ardent on the whole team with Mantra'd E. Athene's, you know, you're going to be able to get some good poke damage in with your Q, store that up, kind of like Yuumi, but less accurate, to store some stuff up and then shield people with your E. So she's got the stuff. It's just the numbers are still low. It's like 170 with a 0.5 AP ratio on the shield. Shield only lasts for 2.5 seconds. It is a shorter cooldown than some of the other ones. It's 8-second base versus like Janna's like 12-second shield base. But her CC is really lacking, like, focus resolve. You have to channel W on somebody for 2 seconds in order to get a root. It's not even a stun. It's a root for 2 seconds. Now, yes, you can't miss it, and the tether radius is huge. So it is pretty good for ganks. If you just run up with your shield, you press W on somebody. If they don't flash, they're going to get rooted. And it is a pretty nice root. Usually it's, a 1.4 second root. So that's basically like a stun. So that can be really good. Like, she can apply pressure in lane. So she's good in lane. It's just, what do you do outside of the lane? Like, that's the thing. It's like, this is not going to stop a Zed from blowing up your AD carry. It's not going to stop Hecarim from running into your AD carry. It's not going to be able to CC the Twitch that's, like, blasting your team from the back line. Like, it's just very, very limited peel. That's, like, good against immobile champions. Like, this will get a Sejuani off your AD carry for a little bit. So she's basically still just, like, very heavy poke pressure in lane, extremely limited CC, limited scaling with the shield. It's okay, but, like, is the Defiance, is the Mantra Shield equal to a lot of other champs out there? Because, like I said, you can use it a lot in lane, but you're only using it once in most team fights. Like, maybe ultra late game, if you have, like, max CDR and you're just constantly hitting people, you might be able to use Mantra maybe twice in a fight. Possibly. If it's, like, a 10 to 12 second fight, you might be able to hit enough spells to use it twice. But realistically, most fights you're using this once. And is this going to be as strong as a lot of the other support ults? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, maybe in some circumstances. The extra move speed does help, but I don't know. We'll see. I think she'll definitely go up in win rate a little bit. She is very good with Sivir specifically, so maybe we'll see a return of a Sivir plus Karma and then a bunch of meatballs. You got your Darius, your Hecarim, and something else that you just want to run into the enemy team with Sivir plus Karma. Maybe that'll work, but I think she's still gonna need a little bit of work. Lulu, so they're increasing the shield to up to 220, so that's pretty good. They're lowering the cost to 80. That's actually pretty significant later on, so you can get some good shielding in there. So if you max shield, which is viable, I think most people do 3 points of shield and then max Whimsy. You could maybe go to max shield with this. I don't know. It's worth considering. Like, Lulu does have a decent win rate. The big problem with Lulu is her Q is pretty much worthless outside the laning phase. And then, like, you have to choose a mode with W. So it's either your CC or your buff on somebody. It's not both. And, like, your shield is not that great. It's okay. This is certainly going to make it a little bit better. But it doesn't give them, like, a lot of buffs. I don't know. I might try out Lulu again. I mean, 20% cost reduction on shield is a big deal. Extra 10 shield is nice as well. So I don't know what cleaned up the buff effect for allies. I don't know what this means. Is that just visual? Cleaned up enemy hit and slow effects. I don't know. Was it just, like, not triggering slows on people? Was it not, like, actually giving buffs to allies? I don't know what this crap means. Like, what does it mean cleaning it up? Was it not working? Like, that's a big deal. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we could try out. In theory, Lulu should be good right now. But we'll just see. Like, Lulu's big problem, like I said, is the Q is worthless. The E is, like, all right as a shield, but the R is great. The W is great. But her problem is she just has to do, like, the W just does too many awesome things, and you can only use one mode on it. But maybe. I mean, maybe we could see her again. With certain champs. I think with something like a Jinx or like a Twitch, something that, like, attacks really quickly, then she could be pretty good. Okay, Master Yi fixed a bug where stacks were lasting 3 seconds instead of 4. Okay, whatever. Probably not going to matter. I mean, that might help him out. I don't know. If you're like a Master Yi one trick, it's probably going to be good. Okay, Nautilus taking 20 damage off early ranks of Q. Is 20 damage going to matter in a lot of kills with Nautilus? Possibly. But I think the big power thing with Nautilus is the same stuff I've been talking about Nautilus for years and why he's so strong. He has just a ton of CC and a point-click ultimate. Like, you cannot dodge it. You're not getting away unless you have something like Stopwatch or Hourglass or whatever. It's going to hit you. unless you go invulnerable. And that's extremely powerful engage. It can hit your entire team. He does like AoE slows and damage with his E. Like, he's just really, really strong right now. They've nerfed Tom Kench out of support in solo queue pretty much. Morgana's kind of on the back foot in solo queue right now as a support. So we'll see. I think they'll probably have to nerf him a bit more, but we'll see. He's very good into champions like Yuumi, Janna, Sona, a lot of these enchanters. He's a pretty good matchup. Nami's all right into him. Okay, Zac, extra damage on W. Okay. I mean, I guess maybe that matters for clearing early on. Let's bounce. So if you get multiple bounces on somebody, you get more chunks, more healing. Probably good. I haven't seen Zac make that much of an impact yet, but he could be the type of champion that could be really good and take over if his numbers get high enough. So we'll see. I think maybe just a lot of people aren't playing him yet. I don't really know. I haven't looked at his numbers. I honestly don't think I've seen a Zac this patch. Everybody's playing Volibear for some reason. I don't know what's up with that, but I've seen more and more Volibear. Which seems like it's bad, but maybe he's just good against other tanks or something out of the jungle. I don't know. I'm going to have to research that a little bit more. Yeah, he's still kind of down in the gutter. We'll see. I mean, he takes a lot of skill to hit correctly. Like, you have to hit your E's. And if you don't, you're in a really bad spot. So, little buff, probably fine. Corrupting Potion, not going to matter a lot in solo queue for most people. Most people don't use this aggressively enough anyways, but, you know, at later levels, it's less damage over 3 seconds, whatever. Probably not going to matter. Even in pro play, it may not matter because it's the same damage at lower levels, I think. You know, at level 5, I guess, what would it do at level 5? 20 damage? I don't know. It's probably not going to matter that much, honestly. ARAM probably doesn't matter. Visual effects don't matter. Trendamere. Just read. I don't think that matters. Ziggs. Overhauled Ziggs. Visual effects. Okay. How about you actually lower the cooldown on his W so that he has a reasonable escape? Can you do that? Like, is it really necessary to have a 26-second cooldown on a conditional escape? Really? That you're not even leveling up early? Like, that's the problem. I really think that I would like to see them buff champions like Ziggs and Heimerdinger, but those champions can potentially be so oppressive if they are good in a meta. But I don't know. Surely there's a way to balance around them. Like, you just never see champions like Ziggs. And he has a really fun, cool kit, but, like, why? Why does this have to be 24 seconds for his escape? Like, he's already super squishy. He already has to position this very well, and you can disrupt him when he's trying to do it. Like, it's a terrible escape to begin with. And the thing is, he has so much wave clear, though. He's almost like an Anivia-esque type of champion where they don't want to buff him too much because it just drags games out. But I think he's unique, like a sieging, like area of effect mage. I think those types of champs are cool. Like, he pays a lot for not being able to roam that much. He can throw his bombs to side lanes, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like he should have his day in the sun a bit more. This is a really cool interaction, too. Like, you can stop other people if you throw this out and they're trying to, like, dash away. You can detonate this. I wish that you could, like, blow it up mid-air. I don't think you can. Knocks back all surrounding enemies 250. He blows himself out. Like, just imagine how cool this ability would be if they standardized it and made it something like 16 seconds down to 12 seconds for multiple points. And then you could throw this, and then mid-air you could detonate it. It didn't even have to land. You could press it again to detonate it mid-air. And, like, if somebody was trying to jump and you knocked them back. Like, somebody's trying to take Thresh's lantern. You throw this mid-air, activate it, boom, knock them out of the lantern. Or, like, Tristana's trying to jump, you know, and you, like, knock her out mid-air. Zac's trying to, like, fly in on you, knock him out mid-air with the satchel charge. That'd be cool as hell, man. I'd love that. Like, why don't they do something like that? Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, they with champions like Ziggs and these other champs that, like, see no play, just figure out what's the cool scenario. Like, what's the feels good scenario that's not too overpowered, that would be really skill expressive and fun and unique. And this is it. The satchel charge. The displacement effect. Like, being able to throw it midair. Then you'd have the tension of, am I going to save this to try to blow up the tower? Am I going to save this to help myself escape? Am I going to save this to try to save somebody else, an ally, or to disrupt an enemy? Sometimes you can already do this with Ziggs, where you can throw it, like, ahead of an enemy who's trying to walk away and then blow them back towards you with Satchel Charge, but it's just... it's got too much of a delay on it, I think. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. So yeah, just lower this from like 16 to 12. The problem is you can't really level this up anyways, because like Hexplosive Minefield, you really need that as well. Like, his issue is he doesn't have a 1-point wonder. You want to level up all 3 of these. So, I don't know. Ziggs is a cool champ. I wish they'd buff him up a little bit. But, I don't... what is his win rate? It's probably not that bad. So that's the thing, is like based on win rates, but it's just like he's never picked. Like, his win rate's probably okay, because they're like going to be one tricks that play him. He's probably like 50%. I guess he's 52. But he's played less than 2% of the time. So, like, that win rate's not really that accurate. That's like one tricks, basically, that play him. And they only have a 52% win rate. It's not the general population. So, that's part of the problem of, like, basing it just on win rates at lower elos. Is like, that can just be a one-trick win rate if it's something that's not picked that much. So, I would pay attention to pick rates as well. But I'm not on the design team. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. Stay tuned for all the tier lists that I'm going to be releasing over the next couple of days. And I'll see you next time. Have a great day.